Okay, welcome everyone to the final session of the day. Specialization, the key to a successful MSP practice, question mark. And we have some terrific panelists for you this afternoon. And they're going to be talking about that and sharing their experiences on the subject as well. But as we've had with all the sessions today, we've had fabulous questions, fabulous comments. Please keep those chats, questions, comments coming. And we will pick up on those and we will also answer those during the session. So, welcome to the final panel of the day. And let me introduce our panelists. And then I'm going to ask them just to tell you a little bit about their companies. And our first panelist is Komal Goyal. And Komal has spent 22 years as a technologist. She started as a programmer and developed in-house applications for a textile conglomerate, and then later went into consulting with KPMG. She realized early in her career that she couldn't deal with corporate culture. How many of us would sympathize with that? And so became an independent consultant with a dream of opening a company. And she took over 6E Technologies in 2015 and helped grow its Oracle practice, both in terms of implementation and managed services. In 2016, she was voted Entrepreneur of the Year by Enterprising Women magazine, and she likes to have fun while working hard. She's an avid meditation practitioner to keep herself sane and centered, and a big believer in finding right advisors in a timely manner during your entrepreneurial journey. So, Komal, tell us a little bit about the company.
Hi, Rod. Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me, first of all?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Perfectly.
Okay, great. Thank you for the great introduction. As Rod said, I started off as a programmer myself. One thing that I have to say that I stuck around with was Oracle. I started off as a programmer at the lowest level, but doing Oracle programming. So that kind of helped me. And we will get into that discussion later on, talking about specialization and sticking to what you do really well. Other than that, I personally have two daughters. One is a scientist and one is going to be a marine biologist. And I actually do work a lot. I work hard, but I play hard as well. Love to dance, and if I was not here today, I probably would be choreographing somewhere in Bollywood, maybe. I don't know.
Excellent. Okay, and our second panelist is Bruce Nelson, and he's the president of Vertical Solutions. And they're a Microsoft Gold partner for Azure and Microsoft 365. They're a top 100 vertical market MSP in healthcare, a top 501 MSP in Channel Futures, a top 250 cloud MSP. And when he's not doing all of that stuff, Bruce heads outdoors every chance he gets, hiking, camping, skiing, etc. So, Bruce, tell us a little bit about Vertical Solutions.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Rod. Everybody hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
So president of Vertical Solutions, we've got operations based out of both Pittsburgh and Denver, so across a few time zones. Offer a lot of the traditional managed services, help desk, NOC, security operations centers. But we'll be speaking to it today. Really built our practice over the last 10 years around the healthcare space, and by healthcare we define that as the independent physician practice, long-term care space, not the healthcare, insurance providers and the bigger health systems. So that's where we focus most of our efforts. Pretty multifunctional team, and the snow didn't really cooperate with us here in Denver as much as some other areas. So, It's been a little bit of a slow year, but hopefully we'll get caught up here, with snow and some skiing too. So
Fabulous. And our third panelist is Dory Spade, and she's the Vice President of Services, General Manager of Apogee IT Services. She's been leading managed services teams for over 13 years, worked in both small and large firms, and Dory's focus has always been in delighting her customers and retaining top talent. She's most proud of the relationships she's built in the community and providing strategic solutions that bridge the gap between tactical solutions and IT leadership. So, Dory, tell us a little bit about Apogee.
Thank you, Rod. So Apogee IT Services, we are a managed services firm, relatively large. We're about a 60-plus person firm located in 3 regions of North America. I'm out of the Boston region, and we have a pretty large variety of customers in various vertical markets and various sizes of organizations that we support. But we're very focused to security and security consulting services. And so I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about why we chose that specialty area and how we have been successful with it and the benefits that it's brought to our customers and to our company.
Fabulous. Our fourth panelist is Trevor Williams. He's Global Director of Cloud Service Providers for Hitachi Vantara. He's responsible for managing Hitachi's global service providers. He successfully grew their revenue from 129 million in 2018 to 150 million in 2019. He's modernized Hitachi's approach from being a sell-to organization to more of a collaborative, strategic, partner-led sales organization. And he's an undergraduate in studies at Brunel University and had his postgraduate education at Kingston University in London. And Trevor enjoys cycling and is an avid skier. So, Trevor, tell us a little bit about Hitachi Vantara.
Well, firstly, I look forward to getting up to Breckenridge again. So Denver is a fantastic place for skiing. Love it. I'm so jealous. But yeah, thanks very much, Rod. Hitachi Vantara is one of the world's largest conglomerates. The company, under its Hitachi logo, develops everything from nuclear power stations all the way down to microprocessors. I'm part of the Hitachi Vantara side where we sell, market, and into Fortune 500 organizations, including telecoms, finance, banking, healthcare providers, and of course into this growing managed services as well as GSIs. I'm based out of London in the United Kingdom, so I kind of have the benefit of at least working with my East Coast colleagues in a reasonable time of the day, and also our colleagues over in Asia Pacific. So it's nice to kind of be a little bit in the center of the world, so to speak. So we have the benefits of both connecting with our partners and friends in both the Asia Pacific and North America. So it's a real pleasure meeting you all and looking forward to this panel session. Thank you.
Fabulous. And our final panelist is Ted Roller. And Ted is wearing his Zementum Channel Chief hat this evening for us. And Ted owned Oxford Systems Integration, an IT services provider out of Dayton, Ohio from 1992 to 2006. He's acted as channel chief for Intronis, LogMeIn, Mail Protector, Connect Booster, Zementum, and others. And he was recently open water PDA certified, which is scuba diving. And that's something he's wanted to do forever, but work kept getting in the way. So he's finally achieved that. So Ted, tell us a little bit about Zementum. Ted, you're on mute at the moment. Oh, Ted. Ted is technically having fun and games with the technology.
Yeah.
Haven't we all been there?
Yes, I've been told that the number one saying for 2020 was "you're on mute." So I'm hoping you don't have to say that to me, Rod. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Caleb, can you help Ted? Okay, well, we're waiting for Ted to figure out what's going on. I'll chip in with some opening questions. So basically, want to explore why should you be specialized? And Bruce, you're front and center on screen for me at the moment. So why specialized? What are the advantages?
Sure. For us, it came, it gave us clarity, in what we were seeing. So, we could focus on a target, we could understand the industry, we could understand the operations, the challenges, and then map technology to it. So, for us, it gave sort of a way to sort of focus and market and differentiate ourselves. So, if everybody's just sort of the generalist IT person, an IT group, then it's hard. Then you're just starting to differentiate on price and everything else. So, for us, it was really expertise. It was understanding how they operate, from a workflow standpoint, be able to map specific solutions to that. And again, that returned significant, increases in wins. So our time to win a deal, was much faster because we had a lot more credibility, and our value proposition went up. So we were able to charge more than just somebody down the street who had a couple clients that were healthcare providers or long-term care providers. So
Okay.
for us, it really
why
better.
Yeah.
So we started this journey in 2011, and there was a big shift, and so Obamacare really drove it. And there are triggering events like pandemics and government compliance and things like that. So that really drove it. We were partnered up with a firm that was doing EMR implementations, and back at that point, a lot of the smaller practices just weren't doing EMR yet. They were still doing it on a manual basis. So the need for technology upgrades and across the office really drove a brand new market space for us. So we got involved with security and connections and helping with cloud migrations and things like that. So that was the big driver. We saw the opportunity. We had some experience in it, and then it took off with a big policy change. So
Fabulous. And Kamal, your why specialized?
So our experience, I think I would kind of tag along with Bruce on it. It just makes sense when you know a lot about a small thing. If it just gives, being specialized makes you differentiate yourself. You're not a generalist anymore, and you know so much about one subject matter that you all of a sudden become a go-to partner for your clients and also the technology that you are on. So I would say that differentiation can help if you become really specialized.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And Dory, you chose security as your specialization. Why was that, and how's that driven your business?
We chose security as a specialization because of the market need for it. That it was just becoming so pertinent that so many customers across our base and other organizations out there that weren't current customers really needed security. So rather than doing a vertical play, decided to do something that would work across many organizations. We always were focused to security, but I wouldn't say that we specialized in it always, as we have over the last couple of years. What we wanted to avoid was the Me Too syndrome. So yeah, we do that as well. So we really needed to focus to something that we could say others don't necessarily do or don't do in the way that we do it. And for us, a big differentiator in our security practice is that we've been able to put it into a managed program, right? So we're having that managed recurring revenue model, which is very important to managed services firms. And we have a higher level of consulting along with it. So it's not just tactical solutions, but rather real expertise and consulting that a lot of organizations that outsource IT are missing.
Mm-hmm. And does that help you position yourself against the competition? Do you think it drives more profitability for you?
Yes, both. It definitely helps us to position ourselves with the competition because, again, they don't have that Me Too factor when you're going. Not that we do too many bids, but when you are bidding, it certainly is a big differentiator. But even when you're just calling out there and trying to prospect, or your salespeople are trying to prospect, when you can really come back and have a good conversation, a deep conversation about your area of expertise, for us being security, that gets the attention of prospects. And we did have to, make sure that it was going to be profitable. That was something that we had to look at is, be successful and can we make money on it? Can we sell it and will we be profitable?
Excellent. And Ted, what are you seeing with the partners you're dealing with? Are you seeing increasing specialization?
Hopefully you can hear me now, Rod. Can you?
We can indeed. You're loud and clear.
Woo-hoo. Awesome. All right. It's interesting. We, again and again, as we worked with partners at Zomentum, and by the way, I should do a 30-second thing on Zomentum. Zomentum is a sales enablement tool built specifically for the MSPs. So our focus is helping MSPs sell more effectively. Honestly, they were in the news today because of a $13 million raise that was announced, the Series A. So if you want to read more about Zomentum, you can check that out in Channel AT and a bunch of other places. That having been said, we get to see a lot of sales data, and we don't share any of it, except very anonymously, but we get to see the specializations that people create in their MSP business as a direct result of the part numbers that they put into our system and how they're working and what their focus is. And growth is undeniably easier for MSPs that have specialization. To what Kunal said about it's easier to do things you know an awful lot about. It is easier to sell when you are an expert. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The more comfortable and confident you are going to market, the more effective you're going to be at selling. And we see that again and again. Generalists are sometimes a requirement because of market share. If you're working in a region that doesn't have enough market, that you have to generalize. But if you can throw a wider net and specialize, we see the difference. We see the growth as a direct result of that.
Fabulous. And Trevor, I know this is something you're very passionate about, and talk us through your thinking.
Well, I think it's pretty much around what everybody else on this call has been saying. For me, it's revenue and margin, right? By being a specialist in your specific area, you're adding additional value. You've got subject matter experts in that specific area of expertise that you're going for. Now, I mean, I've heard a few people talk about, for example, Dory's talking about, the security, which covers a broad section of different industries. And so what we see a lot are really vertical expertise. And I think when you look at a vertical specialist area, for example, I think that you typically get to know a lot of contacts in that specific vertical area. But equally, as you start to expand upon that vertical area, you can start to apply some of those vertical skills into other industries. So, for example, if you look in the oil and gas industry, we have MSP partners of ours who operate very heavily in the oil and gas industry, and it's all about analytics. And interestingly enough, those analytic platforms are really good for finance and banking sectors, using those tool sets to actually break into new markets. So as an opportunity to focus on a specific vertical to deliver specific solutions in that vertical where you can add a huge amount of value, hopefully it doesn't pigeonhole you in that one particular vertical, but there are some elements of the tools that you are bringing into that vertical segment that may well be applicable in other segments. But at the same time, it's also relatively expensive to diversify into some of those other vertical segments, because you need to have those skills and buying those skills to be able to operate in those segments. So there are pluses and minuses, but nonetheless, everybody would be doing their homework to understand what the market opportunity is in that particular vertical segment that they're going to target.
Okay, and Bruce, you are in a vertical segment. If you look at what you're doing, we were doing the preparation for this meeting. You talked about things like language, things like being where the customers were. Would you like to expand on that and just share those thoughts with the people on the call?
Sure. So just for details, I mean, one of the things we did, it took a couple of years for us to figure out, but especially in the healthcare space, is we joined every society that we could as a corporate sponsor. So every medical society, ophthalmologist, I mean, specialty practices, if they were long-term care, and we spend a lot of time with those societies, and we get to know the people on the business side running the practices. So you develop real relationships with them. I can't tell you how many times we've seen IT, MSPs show up at these, at the bigger shows or the yearly events, and they show up one year and they don't get any leads, and they just think it's not worth it. I mean, you have to show up for a couple of years in a row. And there's little things. If you're dealing with a healthcare practice, a primary care, it's a patient. If you're dealing with a long-term care or assisted living facility, it's a resident, and they can tell if you understand who they are and what sort of operations and how they interact with their constituents, just by little nuances like that. And the other thing we do is we recruit for skill sets in and around that. So we have a higher level of satisfaction from our the employees and team members we have, because they're used to the environments, they're comfortable with what they're working in. It's not something new that they have to figure out the first time every time. So get really engaged in the communities, and then we found we could actually broaden our geographic reach by being more specialized. So we weren't pigeonholed to necessarily Western Pennsylvania or Denver Metro, because we had a specialty that people were willing to understand, because you have a unique skill set that is valuable to us in that region. So we were actually able to expand geographically as well.
So just expand on the people. So you're recruiting people from the healthcare sector into the company rather than training your own people to understand healthcare. Am I understanding that right, or is it a bit of both? Hello?
Developing. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So anybody we hire with limited experience, we're developing, but we did look for certain skill sets, at higher level engineering that had experience in healthcare space and with, specific technologies that would translate directly to our clients. So we've done a little bit of both, but we're always keeping that in mind when we're looking at candidates and new team members.
And how about the sales side? Do you train those on healthcare, or do you bring those in with previous experience in the field?
To date, we've just trained them. We had one gentleman we brought in. He had experience in sort of pharmaceutical rep, so he knew what a medical practice looked like. He had general understanding of that piece of it, but then we just support him with sales engineers for the technology piece of it. So he just happened to be somebody that was a good candidate, the right person for organization, and had some experience in the pharma sales side. So
okay, and Kamal, you've specialized with Oracle, which presumably means learning all about how Oracle works and how you can work with their teams. When you're in that kind of relationship, can you share some of your thoughts on what really works and what makes it work for you?
So specializing with one technology partner has its own sort of pros and cons. You basically are sort of at times at their mercy with a large OEM or a large software vendor. But then there comes your relationship development within the vendor ecosystem as well. But what it also does on the positive side, that once you are into that ecosystem, the talent that you have either worked with in the past or your team has worked with in the past, and knowing their work ethic and their understanding of the technology stack, is easier for us to before we do any talent hiring. So working with Oracle, our experience has been where once you get yourself in that position where the large software vendor has started to pay attention to you as a business who's serious about that technology, I think that those relationships start to develop by themselves, if that makes sense.
But how do you get to that position in the first place? What did you do that made people go, wow?
Sticking to that technology. It was Oracle for us was natural. Prior to I took over the company, the company was doing multiple things, general IT services, and also some Microsoft work, and that was one thing that I brought to the vision of the company, that we will stick to one technology, and it's the time to pick. And looking around in the team, Oracle was the natural choice for us because percentage-wise, we were doing maybe 20% other work and 80% Oracle work, all in 2015. So it was a no-brainer for us.
Excellent. And Dory, you're very focused on security. How do you find the clients that are looking for the kind of solutions that you provide? Because presumably with a specialization in security, you're looking for someone who is not your sort of small general customer. You're looking for someone who has a real security need.
So that's the interesting part about security in today's society, is it really does not need to be a specialized type of customer. All customers need security. And so how do we find them, and how do we get their interest in talking about security? Because they don't know what they don't know. So the key is to talk to everybody that you talk to, any prospect, any suspect, any current customer, about security, and educate them. Once you've educated them, they will, the majority of the time, understand how important it is to their organization. Now, there are certain types of customers, like those with compliance, that have a greater need for security. But even just a general managed services customer needs to protect their data against breaches. So that was one of the benefits of really focusing to security, is it's something that everybody needs.
Excellent. Okay. And Ted, if you look at the people you deal with, the ones that are really successful, the ones that are specializing, what are the key traits that you see there, apart from the specialization? What's making them successful? Is it the sales skills they bring to the table? Is it the specialization? How are they going about building their businesses?
Yeah, from a sales perspective, it's really a strategic effort on their part in order to figure out what is necessary to become a ecosystem player in their specialization, whether it's regional, national, international, whatever it is. Being a thought leader, being an expert, being somebody that everybody else goes to and asks advice from in their specialization drives all kinds of ownership of the space and ownership of the specialization, which leads to sales happening so much more easily and effectively. Selling becomes a result of your reputation in the space, and closing deals becomes a result of your reputation in the space, as opposed to a result of all of your sales efforts. So, yeah, I mean, I think that is, Jay McBain from Forrester talks about this all the time. You need to be one of those 100 people in the space who is considered an influencer and a thought leader. When you accomplish that kind of level of expertise, then specialization becomes just what you're known for, and selling and marketing and all those other things become so much easier because everybody's wanting to listen to you anyway.
Okay, cool. And Trevor, if I come to Hitachi, what are you looking for? Are you keen to find those partners that specialize? What does it mean for Hitachi as a company?
Well, we are. So firstly, Hitachi Vantara ourselves, we're not a cloud provider. What we do is enable our partners. So when we're looking at specialization, we're also looking at those specialist partners who can augment some of the solutions that we cannot deliver in the marketplace. So we have a whole series of salespeople, sales ecosystem, guys who are selling into telco, selling to healthcare and life sciences, selling into oil and gas, manufacturing, all those things, right? Now, most of those industries, they may well turn to us now with this modern era that we're in. They say, well, I don't want to buy this as a on-premise solution in my own data center. I'm shutting down my data centers. So what we have to do is make sure that we can connect our account managers with those partners that specialize in that specific area. We've been quite successful in doing that. So when we've recruited service providers, we not just look at generalist service providers. They are there, and they are in abundance, and they are very welcome within our ecosystem. But we're also looking at service providers that do have specific skills. We have service providers that have multiple disciplines across a number of different industries and verticals, and that's really good. And then that way we can connect those to our field sales reps who are selling in those industries, of which that customer is not interested in an on-prem. They want to go towards a managed service, but they want to work with us to help identify the right provider to work with. And that works really well for us because it helps us to still maintain a level of what I'll call indirect account control. Now, some of our what I'll call traditional old school sales guys will kind of like dip out, and they don't want to play because they feel that they want full account ownership. But the reality is in this new world is that you have to have a collaborative model. It's not going to work if you don't have a collaborative model. So by working in collaboration with chosen service provider partner who has those skills in that area, can augment our own, is an opportunity for success.
Okay. And Bruce, if you look at what you're doing, you look at where you are at the moment, you've obviously created a very powerful position. What were the 2 or 3 things that you did where you can say that was an absolute milestone for the business? That really made a difference.
Well, I guess the biggest was really just looking at what the options were, what the industries were, and actually picking one. I mean, that's the step one. And we had law firm clients, we had accounting clients, we had a pretty diverse group, and we could go different directions. So what was the opportunity? Was it going to be big enough? Was it going to be big enough to support us? So I mean, number one is study your market. What do you enjoy doing? Where do you like working? What types of environments? Some people like working in manufacturing, and that's their background, and that's appealing to them. We like the healthcare space, so we grew into that. So that was number one, and then number two, the most powerful thing we did was just become whatever the industry is, find out what their societies are. How do they work? How do they network? So for us, the societies were really eye-opening because you weren't emailing or you were doing traditional marketing to healthcare practices when we kicked this off. They're relatively new to the space. They were underutilized in technology. They had scheduling systems, and most of it was still manual. So we had to figure out how to get to them. And what we found was the societies, the practice directors at these societies are very involved, and they share information. They share which vendors and which partners work really well with them. So if you go to an optometrist, you're going to go to the optometrist that's in your neighborhood or in your area. You're not driving across the city to do that. So we found that they were actually really very open to sharing, whereas other industries, if they found a good provider, they don't want to share with the competitor. But the healthcare space didn't work that way. So those were the 2 things. I mean, just really understanding, how do you connect? Because it's not just sign up for newsletters or get mailing lists. We had to know and figure out how to connect to those, and then what was really important to them. And once we kind of learned those through some trial and error, then we became pretty successful at it pretty quickly. But it took some time and investment for sure. But we had to commit. Like Kamal's point, I had to commit at some point. Said, don't bring me a law practice. We're not doing banking. We're not doing these other things that can be very successful, but can absorb and require a lot of time and attention. So to that point, I think you said the biggest thing is just deciding to do it and living with that. Staying through the first year or two when it's hard. Go back to the conference where you didn't get any leads the first year, but all of a sudden you show up the second year and you remember some people, and how you start making contacts in the broader context of the industry and who works in there, and how you can build that network.
So I think we're having some difficulties with Rod. I think he's trying to reconnect. Could we look at the questions that are on the...
Looks like Ted's on mute again, but I think he's trying to...
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so Beatrice asked the question, when looking at new vertical segments, what are the key things I should consider? I think it's interesting to point out that the people in this panel, some of them probably are already verticalized and have specialization, and others don't. And if you're looking to move towards that kind of specialization, there's some great places to look. One of the first ones is your existing customer base. If you look at your top 5 or 10 happiest customers and start asking them questions about what is it that we're doing for you that makes us incredibly valuable to you, if they're in a vertical and you are by accident doing things that add a lot of value to them, you can play into that strength and turn it into your own specialization. The second thing is look within your organization. I think if you dig really, really hard, you'll find that there are people in your organization who have core knowledge that you can drive into a specialization and create that vertical presence that you're looking for. And then finally, I would suggest that when you find those customers who are in a vertical and you work to be better for them, they will help you build your specialization. They will promote you as a specialist and help drive your business forward into the vertical or the specialization that you choose.
Excellent. Ted, thank you for that. I got chucked out the system for a moment. I think my internet connection went. So you guys have obviously been doing a magnificent job while I've been away. So thank you.
Farmer's at it again.
So
yeah, tractors.
Yeah, obviously must be. They're sowing crops late at night. That's a whole other story. But anyway, so if we look at this, we've got 3 types of specialization represented by the panelists. Kamal focused on Oracle as a company. We got Dory very much focused on security, technology as a specialization. And we got Bruce, who's focused very much on the healthcare market. I think those are really the 3 areas that we see specialization within the channel focus community. And Bruce, you said you made a decision to go towards healthcare. Why did you choose healthcare? Was it because you had existing clients, existing knowledge within the company? What drove that decision? And are you looking at other verticals to expand from where you are at the moment? Hello, Bruce,
sure.
Are you there?
So we did have some... I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can
just
you hear
about.
me? Okay.
Yes,
yeah, we
can.
did. We definitely had some expertise in that area. And we also looked at some other factors, right? If you're picking a vertical market to target, what are the risks associated with it? So, if you're all in on retail right now, it could be a tough time. So, healthcare had some components of stability that we really liked. People are always going to need doctors. They're always going to need healthcare. It's going to be funded one way or another. So, I bought the businesses in 2007 and 2008. So I was pretty gun shy after buying 2 businesses, and then, coming into 2008 and seeing what could happen to a business, when it doesn't have a downside protection. So, we liked the industry for that reason. We also liked just sort of working in the industry. But I think it kind of checked all those boxes that, it's going to be relatively stable. It has a definable market that you can go after. And then, again, it was frankly an area we were interested in and want to work in.
Mm-hmm. And what did you have to do to the business to service that sector? Did you have to find additional people? Did you have to bring on board new vendors? What were the key things you had to do to say, okay, I'm not just talking the talk, I'm actually walking the walk?
Yeah, it was more of the vendors, the people we sort of grew. We did have some expertise, like I said, and when we were recruiting, we were looking for people that might have some expertise in in networks or security environments, and in a healthcare environment. Maybe they'd worked in ERP or ERM for EMR for healthcare. But yeah, on the vendor side, we did, because it is a compliance-driven, industry. So, we were looking for vendors that could match. We were looking for vendors that, would sign a business associate agreement, if they were managing, RMM tools or security platforms, and actually knew what a BAA agreement was. So we did, we had to grow that, and we learned some of that from our clients too. What did they use? We went to the conferences. I said, at least every year, and usually quarterly events. Who else was there? What other technology firms that were doing complementary services that we should know about and or support directly? So that was probably the just sort of tweaking those to those solution service sets offerings that we had mapped to the healthcare industry that we were targeting.
Okay. And Dory, similar question to you. You decided to focus on security. How did that change who you were employing, what you were doing, how you were marketing the business?
Security changed how we were going to market because it allowed us to have a different conversation with our customers. And one of our driving factors actually was answering our customers' needs. We knew that our current customers had great needs because, things were happening within their organizations that were very risky. So we wanted to answer that need. But we had to also look at how would we answer the need. Would we train people? What type of expertise did we already have? Would we grow them, grow our own organically security practice? Would we partner with somebody? So we went through the different options of how we would actually launch a security practice. And we decided to do two things. We organically grew it because we had some expertise very much on the consulting side. And we've really believed that this was a huge differentiator, even within security services. It's not just transactional. It is, we need to be able to have these conversations with our customers. We had that expertise, but we didn't really have all the solutions and the tools, such as a security operations center. And it would cost a lot of money for us to build and staff our own SOC. So we decided to partner with the security provider for that. Those were all the decisions that we had to make to go into it and be successful with it.
Awesome. And Komal, you're obviously very focused on Oracle, very focused on the business. What are the two things that you've done in terms of your relationship with Oracle that have made the biggest difference?
One, create expertise within our organization so that you know what they know that you know what you're talking about. And secondly, become channel's friend. Alliance and channel is your friend. Find right people within Alliance and channel and create relationships. One thing is for sure, at least for the large vendors that I've noticed, the sales rep move really fast. The sales managers they go through revolving doors, but channel does not. So that's where you need to focus.
Okay, excellent.
And Rod, I have to get off. Thank you very much. I will talk to you later. Thanks everyone.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
And we're almost out of time. So Ted, hand back to you. If you're thinking about specialization, what are the two pieces of advice you'd give to people at the meeting today?
Sure. Way back when I owned an MSP for 15 years, we specialized in the educational space. And I talked about this a little bit before. We had 3 or 4 K through 12 educational customers. And so the first thing that happened was we talked to those customers. We said, what do we need to do in order to be a more effective and specialized partner for you? And they told us. One of the things, and that would be my first bit of advice, is talk to the customers who have the specialization that you want to chase and find out what you can do to be most impactful. Know what you're going to try to accomplish. Set goals around that. The second thing was, based on that advice, we became involved with boards that were driving funding for K through 12 education. We became involved with all the internet providers for K through 12 education in Ohio. And we joined forces with a software company that provided educational software to that space. In 2 years, we went from 4 K through 12 partners to 60 K through 12 partners who were driving, we nearly doubled our revenue as a result of that. Organizationally, not just in the, we massively increased our educational revenue. So A, find out where the value proposition is and go target how to get there. And then B, get involved with the industry that you're going to target and become a player in that industry. Know who the people are talking to, and they will recommend you. Do a great job, and you'll grow in that space.
Fabulous. And Trevor, last but by no means least, what pieces of advice would you have? What 2 pieces of advice would you have for the people on the call today?
Yeah, I'd say 2 things. Number one is never underestimate the power of your technology providers. And what I mean by that is when you buy technology, you shouldn't just be buying, right? You should force the technology vendors to be your partner, right? And so, for example, if you got your websites where you're showcasing your solutions, showcase those vendors or those technology providers stuff that you're using to drive your business. But equally, when those technology providers are selling you their wares, ask them a direct question. How can I tap into your customer base? Because a lot of those technology vendors now are all having the same challenges, which are everybody's moving to the cloud, and the cloud and MSP market is disrupting the traditional way of technology delivery. Those technology providers are desperately looking out for service and MSP providers to potentially sometimes augment some of their own offerings. So that's why you have to have that real tight relationship with them, but do not be treated as an end customer. Be treated or have a partnership approach with those tech vendors.
Excellent. So some awesome input from everyone, but we are now out of time. So Komal, Bruce, Dory, Trevor, and Ted, thank you very, very much indeed for a great final session of the day. Really, really appreciate the input, the thought, and I think you guys have got some terrific businesses. So many congratulations on that. And we will now be finishing for the day. I hope everyone's thoroughly enjoyed the event. We'll be reaching out to everyone. And part of the things we've been talking about today is understanding our customers. We want to understand what everyone wants, what everyone felt about the event. So please, when you get our survey questions, please do answer the survey. But once again, Komal, Bruce, Dory, Trevor, and Ted, thank you very, very much indeed for a great final session. Really appreciate it.
Thank you
all.
all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.